So, understanding what I was going to be speaking about today was a core value. It's one particular value that I definitely need a lot of work on. My wife would probably agree. What's that? It is marriage. It's all right. I got you back. But yeah, this is one that was a tough one to me because honestly, I haven't really, shamefully, I haven't thought a whole lot about it. It's kind of like one of those things where you take the valves, you do the job, and you just kind of continue on with life and make the best out of it you can. And I've never really done a soul search study on what marriage is about. So hopefully I can place that and piece it together for you today. So that's kind of what I'm going to get in today as far as what we believe as set as our core values. Our core values should overrule how we feel at a particular moment. That's what a core value is. It is our principles or our beliefs. I'm going to try to follow this as best as I can here. So it's our principles, our beliefs that we hold most dear and that are central importance of our life. What we believe is important in the way that we live and work, and as we apply those values, it's a living testament to our true self because our values matter most to us when it comes to our personal or professional lives. It's that little voice in our heads that tell us whether or not to care about something or how and when we should prioritize our times, our talents, and our treasures. So essentially, what we believe affects every area and decision in our life. If we, through understanding God's desire for covenant relationship, and allow that understanding to sanctify our hearts, our marriage, our children, then God is able to glorify Himself in the world using families as a collection of cells to form His hands and feet, known as the body or the institution of the church. Now, as I preparing for this message, it kind of, I think the core value dealt with both the church and the institution of marriage and trying to figure out, in my mind, which one was more important, if there was one. Is the church more important than the family, or is the family over the church? Who makes the bigger impact in our society? So, as sort of a fitness guy, I can't help but to think of the body and how it's designed. As I took this fitness journey, I've learned a lot about our body and how neatly orchestrated it is and how it works. And you would not believe the capabilities of what your body can do on its own and how God's designed it. And it's really awesome. So thinking about the body, your bodies are made up of cells. The cells are the basic unit of life. So in the modern world, they are the smallest known things that perform all of life's functions. All living organisms are either a single cell or a multicellular organism composed of many cells working together. So as I think about it, there's a lot of cells that make up the muscle group, right? There's a lot of cells, probably thousands of cells that make up the muscle group. There are cells that make up your blood. There are cells that make up multiple things in your body. Your whole entire body is made up of cells. And the central characteristic that allows a cell to perform these functions is what they call the nucleus. The nucleus is the brain of the cell in which it gives the ability to perform all its functions, such as, and listen to the similarities of what a cell can do, the ability to respond to changes in its environment, to grow and to develop over its lifespan, to reproduce or make copies of itself, to maintain homeostasis or keep its internal environment the same regardless of outside changes. A living thing must pass on traits to its offspring. Kind of sounds like a lot like a family, doesn't it? These are the basic functions that are imperative and characteristic to something that is living. Without these, the body slowly starts to die. And these functions are the backbone and are vital to the development and growth of the human body. So much like the cell is the basic unit of the body, I feel like marriage is the basic unit of church and society. When it comes to the things of God, the plans of God. Everything has been created in its design to bring glory to Him and to reveal who He was. Now, speaking on in the class in Romans, the first chapter deals with the people of the world and how God's created the world and how He's allowed that world to communicate His power, His eternal Godhead. That's what He does. He designs, He creates things to not only bring Him glory, but in a second sense is to have a relationship with it. And that's kind of where we want to get into it. So how does marriage reflect God? The covenant of marriage is a reflection of God's covenant with His people. And it symbolizes the love, the faithfulness, and the commitment that God has for His people. In the Old Testament, God made a covenant with His people, promising to love and care for them if they would obey His commands. Genesis 2:6, and the man said, "This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called a woman, for out of a man she was taken. For this reason a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and they will become one flesh." Why is this a reason that a man will leave his father and mother? I sit here and I actually thought about this for a long time, probably a day and a half. I thought about why would you leave your father and your mother to cling to something like this. And the only thing that came to mind was a single sentence: this is something that cost him. This is something that God took from him, that cost him. It has become something of great value to him. A person will not, and cannot for that matter, love something that doesn't mean or cost anything to him. God's covenant with us cost Him something, and it was of great value, and it was His Son, Jesus Christ. As we hold on to the promises and the importance of our covenant with God and with our spouse, the sanctifying work begins to shape and mold us into the people God desired us to be. In marriage, sanctification occurs when we surrender our lives and our relationship to God. When we do this, He fills us with His Spirit and gives us a new heart for our spouse. We begin to see them as He does, as beloved children of God. This brings us joy because we know that we are exactly where He wants us to be. 1 John 1, 2, and 3 says, "Beloved, we are now children of God, and what we will be has not yet been revealed. We know that when Christ appears, we will be like Him, for we will see Him as He is." And here's the key point of this verse I wanted to hit. "And everyone who has this hope in Him purifies himself, just as Christ is pure." I relate the sanctification in marriage to what they hold on, as far as the first part that I spoke about was the covenant. As they hold on to the covenant of marriage and what all is encompassed in what marriage represents, that allows them to sanctify. And I think I talked about it in our class a little bit this morning as far as how we sanctify. This is the same way we walk in our Christian life. And how do we sanctify ourselves? If we keep the promise, if we keep the covenant of God before our eyes every single day, that will allow the sanctification process to develop in our life. As a staple on how God uses the family to influence and create a healthy society is found in today's scripture that I had for today, Psalm 128, 1 through 4. It said, "Blessed are all who fear the Lord and who walk in His ways. For when you eat the fruit of your labor, blessings and prosperity will be yours. Your wife will be like a fruitful vine flourishing within your house, your sons like olive shoots sitting around your table. In this way indeed shall blessings come to the man who fears the Lord." In marriage, from solid families, strength flows to the nation. And from solid, godly families come workers who build up the nation, parents who raise godly children, and children who are our hope for the future. Without such families, the future is dark. From such families, the nation and the church will find strength. God has richly blessed marriage and has bestowed on it and wrapped it up in everything in the world, to the end that this estate might be well and richly provided for. Married life is an excellent thing and a matter of divine seriousness, for it is of high importance to God that people be raised who may serve the world and promote the knowledge of God, godly living, and all virtues to fight against wickedness and the devil. The family is definitely a divine institution, but rather than viewing the family as a kingdom parallel to the church and the state, Martin Luther saw the family as an organizational unit between the church and the state. That does not mean that the family is an institution inferior to that of the state. Actually, it's quite the opposite. Political power does not flow downward from God to the emperor and downward further to the princes and the electors from them to the family. Rather, political power flows from God to the family to the princes, and from the princes to the emperor. In opposition to medieval Catholic theology, Luther taught that the state's authority comes not from the church, but rather from the home. For the commandment, honor your father and your mother, is the basis for state authority as well as family authority. So in essence, in what is being said here is that God, through the institution of marriage and family, has structured a genetic code in how the world should be structured to be healthy and prosperous as a reflection of their relationship with Him. So what I'm saying is that is our relationship with or without God, is that what determines the condition of our society? A scripture that I used, or I looked up, it said in 2 Timothy 3, 1 through 8, says, "This know also, that in the last days perilous times shall come. For men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, and unholy, without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontent, fierce, despisers of those who are good, traitors, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasures more than lovers of God, having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof, or allowing the power to change their lives. From such turn away, for of this sort are they which creep into houses, and lead captive silly women laden with sins, led away with divers lusts, ever learning, and never able to come to the knowledge of the truth." The truth has a lot of effect on how we, and as I got to thinking about it, I was sitting there thinking a great falling away will come in the last days. The world ain't going to fall away, right? The world is already fallen. Who are we talking about here? And this is the church. This is the church that will give up sound doctrine. This is the church that will stop minding the things of God. And again, I keep referring to the class as we got into Romans chapter 1, and read it for yourself if you'd like. But those who denied the truth, those who rejected the truth, those who refused, and that word is in there, refused to listen, to obey the commands of God, there was a certain thing that happened in their life, and all these things that I just listed were those very things. Is the church responsible for the direction of the nation? I believe it is. I'll close with this thought. And I thought about it for a little bit. There's only one way out of a marriage as far as divorce goes, and that was through adultery. And I got to thinking about adultery, not that I'm thinking about it, but throughout the Bible. And God had to deal with a rebellious nation for a long, long time, and He still is dealing with it. If our conduct reflects our relationship with God, and these are the traits of those who have rejected the truth, this is a reflection of their relationship with Him. If our nation looks like this, they have cut themselves off, and they have committed spiritual adultery. People are committing spiritual adultery in their lives. And as we operate as cells within a body, each one of you are a cell that is important. It is imperative to this particular muscle group in this church. As important as the cells are in that church and the cells in that church. The thing is, the cells are grouped together to form a muscle. That muscle is formed with other muscles to move the whole entire body. Don't think that your life isn't important to the way God moves His whole entire body. You are a significant part of that. We work collectively together. If you notice, there was a single cell and there was multi-cells that work together. So you can be single or you can be married. So just because you're not married, don't think that you won't have an effect. Singular cells have just as much as an important role in the body as the multi-cells do. So with that, I will close, my dear friend, if you want to capitalize on that.